Hey, this is Sydney, and I am here to talk us through the Astro weather of September 10th through the 16th, 2025. This is my fourth attempt at trying to record this because we brought a new puppy into the house. So if you hear any disturbances, just know that there is a 1 year old and some change puppy that is yearning to play right now. And he had playtime, but it doesn't matter. So my recording area is now this because dogs on the ground and I don't want them knocking over other things. So I hope that you don't mind the change in location. This is my office, at least. Okay. Um, yeah. So 10th through the 16th, 2025. Let's go over some of the general notes. Pluto is out of bounds. We've already talked about this in previous episodes, so I'm really hoping that you will either go back and listen to those, but also just know that whenever Pluto goes out of bounds in declination to the south, it usually means revolution for the people. It'll be very interesting to see how that plays out for us in this like kind of technological age. Going to be going in and out of bounds until 2035. So I think we're really just like in for it. The moon is going to be out of bounds Friday through Tuesday this week. So heightened emotions, emotional reactions are going to feel a bit like bigger, not necessarily better. Let's just say the word hyphy. Uh, the limit does not exist. And so, in a mundane chart, this could mean that people's reactions to various things that are going on could feel quite powerful at this time, I think. And yeah, the major aspects of the week include on the 11th of September, we get Mercury conjunct the South Node. On the 12th, we get the Sun Jupiter sextile and Mercury Jupiter sextile. On the 13th, we get a Mercury cazimi. On the 15th, we get Venus in Leo, sextile Mars in Libra. My notes are on this side, charts over here. And on the 16th, we get Venus trine retrograde Chiron in Aries and Mars opposite retrograde Chiron in Aries. So I do think that, Mercury is getting some play. Venus is definitely getting some play. There's things about communication and things about our relationships and values that are kind of being worked on. And certainly we have Jupiter kind of in play too with those sextiles from the Sun and Mercury, which can really speak to our goals and wisdom and how we want to expand. For better or for worse, I do think that Jupiter in Cancer has been this idea of like expanding our vision of homeland security or safety, and that has been pretty gnarly. So I don't think all of the things about Jupiter is always good. I think this is a pretty intense time to learn that not all of the planets are always good or always bad. Some are constructive, some are destructive. It really kind of depends on what's going on with everything else. Cool. So as I put up charts, they're going to be set in zero Aries. Pretty easy to orient ourselves in a zero Aries chart. If you see any of these aspects happening, you're going to want to look at your own chart to kind of see where that's going on. Okay, I'm going to try to run through this week like Tomb Raider because I don't have a lot of time before there becomes another dog eruption in my house. So let me put up the chart for Wednesday, September 10th, which is Mercury's day. And speaking of running through, Mercury has been running through the sign of Virgo like Tomb Raider. Today, Mercury is going to sit at that 15. He's going to move even quicker though. So, like, he's not going to stay at 15 all day. I mean, you can see for the 12 p.m. chart, he's at 15:53. He's going to go into 16, maybe even 17, especially because we will get Mercury conjuncting the South Node at 18 the following day. So, Mercury is combust right now. He's getting burned up or they're getting burned up right now by the sun. So he's not exactly in the best condition, but he's in better condition than most of the Mercuries that are interacting with the sun because Mercury is at home and also exalted in the sign of Virgo. You know, this is a sign of perfecting, of separating, like separating the wheat from the chaff, analysis, systems. Um, so hopefully we are thinking a little bit more clearly. Maybe we're speaking a little bit more precisely around the things that we need to have conversation about. There's a little bit of a caution that because Mercury is being burnt up right now, we're not really doing it to our full potential. And hopefully, we will have a moment of pure, unadulterated clarity with that Cazimi. But for Wednesday, September 10th, I think that this day feels pretty emotionally spicy. Um, we wake up with the moon conjunct retrograde Chiron at 7:10 a.m. And so this just kind of heightens our empathy, heightens our sensitivity. We're just like feeling real sensitive about a lot of stuff. And then at 1:03 p.m., we get the moon entering Taurus. So when the moon enters Taurus, this is a moon, you know, our moon, our emotional nature kind of turns towards things that bring us feelings of safety and comfort and stability, right? We go from this like spicy moon in Aries, right? Just reacting quick, feeling things quickly, it burns up quick, you know, that sort of thing to like now I'm more security minded. Now I really care about the things that are bringing me comfort and make me feel like I'm at home and like I'm going to be okay. This can be a moon that is dealing with themes that have to do with like the kind of security around like resources, right? Because this is a moon that is an earth sign. It can be about money, right? Um, the sort of we want to feel valued, we want to feel safe, we want to feel like we're going to survive. Oh, anyways. Sue, after the moon enters Taurus, moon is going to have all of these really kind of cranky aspects for the day. We're going to get a sesque square to Mercury. These are the moon's in an earth sign, Mercury's an earth sign. You know, Mercury is being quick, quick, quick. And it really is about like service and analysis and all of the systems. And like the moon in Taurus doesn't really care about that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so there's a little bit of this argument around all of the things that do bring us a sense of like feeling stable and secure and like grounded. And so I think we're just kind of feeling out of it because the moon and Mercury have to do with like how we're feeling, how we're thinking, how we're speaking, how we're processing. The sesque square is going to bring us like a crankiness and unease that feels a bit like a crisis a little bit. 3:42 p.m. we're going to get the moon square retrograde Pluto. This is never a fun aspect to experience because we are feeling really, really intensely and really, really powerfully about something, whatever it could be. This can bring up feelings of obsession, right? Obsession around feeling safe and secure and feeling like we're able to stand on our own 2 feet. And when the moon comes in squares retrograde Pluto, Pluto is asking the moon to eliminate something. And this is through some sort of confrontation. So maybe we have some sort of confrontation conversation with somebody and we're like, they're like, you got to stop doing this thing, whatever this thing is. And you're like, I'm not doing any of that, right? And then there's like a forced elimination, a forced letting go. But you could be feeling pretty like heels dug in at this moment and also just feeling really, really intensely about something at this time. We are going to get a set square from the moon to the sun at 6:58 p.m. Again, this is like feeling out of sorts, not feeling great. This could be a lot of anxiety, and maybe even kind of that obsessive, like I'm trying to figure out what's going on and I can't really figure it all out kind of feeling. 9:11 p.m. we get Mercury sesque square Pluto, and I think that there's an intensity around what we're thinking and we're trying to like figure out that feels like a crisis. And, Mercury is moving fast, so I do think that this is going to kind of clear up. But like all of these aspects for the day are really saying like we don't feel great. Things don't feel great today, you know? And we're just kind of trying to get through it. There aren't a lot of Ptolemaic aspects for this day. So I don't think it's going to feel like flow, like we can just kind of knock things off our list. I think it just kind of feels like maybe you're trying to get things done because you're feeling cranky or not so great about the things that are going on in your life. Yeah. So that's Wednesday. Fun times. Let's move on to Thursday. I'm just going to click forward here. All right. So here we are, September 11th. Uh, Never forget. I'm sure that there will be a whole bunch of various sensitive and insensitive morals, memorials, and memes that happened today. And I think one of the things that I just want to remind people of is that it's likely that you know someone that was in that city on that day. And I think we all should be sensitive to the horrible things that happen all over the world, not just for the things that happen on 9/11, but the things that happen to everyone everywhere because there are multiple crises going on. But this is a day where I think people are going to be talking about crises and they're going to be talking about the past. They're going to be talking about past things that they learned and maybe that they said or that they need to let go of. We are going to get the moon is going to semi-square retrograde Saturn and Neptune. I think something's kind of forming. We don't really know. It feels a little irritating, but not anything of major importance. At 4:09 p.m., this is kind of the big aspect of the day. The Mercury is going to conjunct the South Node. He's going to dive into the South Node. The South Node can have the nature of Mars and Saturn. So this could be, some sort of endings, right? Endings that have to do with mercurial things, endings that have to do with communication. Maybe that's some sort of conversation that you have that ends something. This could also have to do with young people, children, and also maybe even young women because Mercury is in the sign of the maiden. This could be a piece of old information coming up around past abuses of women or young women, pardon my language. Um, which certainly we have a lot of things in the news that are happening right now. And so I wonder if there could be something kind of coming up, or we are realizing, the sun is also there too, kind of highlighting this area. Um, and it has been because we just had the eclipses and things like that. So we are grappling with our past. We're grappling with something about our past that could have to do with young women or the things that we thought or the things that we have expressed or the things that we've told ourselves. All of these things can be true. But there is a letting go, there is an ending, there is a purging kind of thing that can be happening here. The South Node is a bit like a drain. Something needs to drain out, it needs to be done with in a way. We're going to get the moon in Taurus, trine Mercury in Virgo. I like this aspect. I think that this is really being able to have good conversation and probably good conversation about things that happened in the past. Have to do with, things that make us feel stable and secure and safe, feel grounded in the world. We're going to get the moon is going to trine that sun in Virgo. This is a flowing energy, right? There's a facilitation happening around things that have to do with earthly pursuits, that have to do with service and safety. We like the trine, right? It's it's the yeah, it's a trine that's kind of like we're able to kind of disseminate and to to really like feel in flow. I can dig it. We're going to get the moon sextile Jupiter in Cancer. This can be a feel good aspect. as well. So, this can be feeling, kind of generous. It could also be feeling pretty indulgent as well, especially Moon Jupiter likes its ice cream. That kind of generosity as well. There's something about pleasure here. There's something about certainly about safety and security. Um, I think that this day, it's like meeting old ghosts while also maybe feeling all right about it. And but also some things could come up that could be fairly like, wow, with that Mercury South node and the sun, there's stuff here that feels karmic, right? It feels fated, because it is in aspect with the nodes of fate. And then at 11:59 p.m., last aspect of the day, we are going to get the moon square Venus in Leo. You know, pleasure, right? And like the moon is coming and squaring its ruler. It's all about creativity and art and pleasure. And so, like, use this square, though it is a square, it doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. I don't want to say that all squares are bad because I think sometimes dynamic tension allows us to take some sort of action. And so, I think that there's an indulgent side of this day where we're really trying to like self-soothe and engage with art and pleasure and things that taste good and feel good and smell good, probably to just get through the day, honestly. There could be some stuff around like self-care as well. I really like how the end of this day happens. Um, those aspects are really like flowing and getting things done and facilitating. All in all, Thursday feels better than Wednesday. Let's put it that way. So let's move on to Friday, September 12th. All right, so Friday, September 12th is Venus's day. Venus is in Leo. She's got, I think, like another week and a half in the sign, maybe 2 weeks or something like that. Um, I think that this Venus right now being ruled by the sun in Virgo can be a little bit of a picky Venus. She really wants things to be like perfect for her. And, you know, she just could be a little bit more persnickety, bold, confident that Venus and Leo, really wanting to play and be creative. Um, but there's like kind of running in the background with its Lord being that sun in Virgo. There's something more like, but make it perfect. But like, let's do it again and make it perfect. That kind of thing that is going on. Now, let's talk about the aspects of the day. Friday, we do get the moon going out of bounds. And so, moon going out of bounds when it enters Gemini at 2:38 p.m., it's lots of curiosity and, verbally processing one's emotions. I have a moon in Gemini, and there's definitely external processing. There's also wanting to keep things light and to not go super deep. It's an air moon. Uh, Chatty, flirty, fun, curious, inquisitive, um, conversational, uh, learning, but not necessarily all of the depth that you would want unless it's making other aspects to things that would potentially like, give it some gravitas. But early in the morning, we are going to get that Sun in Virgo, sextile Jupiter in Cancer. This is a really lovely aspect. This could just be feeling like pretty good, right? I do think that this has to do with like home and care and I don't know, when I see Cancer and Virgo together as archetypes, I always think about like cleaning my house and getting my things in order. And so maybe this is just like we're feeling really good about getting everything together. You know, we're doing our work, we're getting organized, we're like setting ourselves up for success, and we have kind of like the energy to be able to do so. So I don't hate it. We are going to get a quincunx from the moon to Mars very, very early in the morning, and there could be some sort of emotional adjustment or like spiciness that we feel, especially around things that we value. And I say that because the moon in Taurus and Mars in Libra are both ruled by that Venus in Leo. So it could be that like we're just not getting emotionally acknowledged in the ways that we need and feel a bit frustrated, feel a bit spicy, a little bit angry. We're going to get a sextile from the moon to retrograde Saturn in Pisces. This is the closing aspect before the moon enters Gemini. Moon Saturn sextiles can feel a bit like there's some gravitas, there's a little bit of weight, there's a little bit of resolve. Sometimes it can make you feel a little bit isolated, but like not in a bad way with the sextile. There's like a flowing energy between like having good emotional boundaries, right? This is like having good emotional boundaries. Like maybe we're feeling a lot, but also like I don't need to put it all on you in that moment. I can kind of take care of myself. We are going to get that moon entering Gemini at 2:38 p.m. So I think that the mood kind of lightens up, kind of becomes a little silly clown, right? Wants to just like gather all of the different pieces of data and information and wants to maybe have conversation. That's when the void of course is going to end. So the void of course moon is like maybe an hour long. It's not a biggie deal. 2:53 p.m. Mercury in Virgo is going to sextile Jupiter in Cancer. This is like a flow between right brain and left brain thinking in a way with Mercury and Jupiter. You know, Mercury is like that short processing, and then like Jupiter is like the long range vision and like wisdom that you get from like learning like a whole broad system. It's like information and broad systems, and those things are like cooking with grease together. There could be, a generosity of ideas and communication at this time. It's just like a flowing, dynamic energy that might have to do with like having some really good ideas about how we want to take care of ourselves and each other. Moon sextile retrograde Neptune in Aries, can be dreamy and creative, but not in like any sort of heavy way. And in fact, I think it's just like this like flow of new, fresh vision, energy. We get the moon conjunct retrograde Uranus and Gemini's, like new ideas kind of coming through. And then I think it's like we get all of this kind of like data, and then we go into this trine with Pluto, and it goes, okay, like now let's like really like get into the nitty gritty of it all and figure out how all of these things like connect and how they all work out. Um, I I don't know. I like Moon trine Pluto. It really allows you to get down into the nitty gritty of things. And also you can like feel pretty intensely. And this could, with the moon being in Gemini, of course, bring an intensity of thought and understanding of one's like emotional nature that is a little bit, hopefully a little bit better than if it just like wasn't in trine to Pluto, allowing us to get deeper, allow us to get into it. And then at 8:27, we're gonna get Mercury by quintile retrograde Chiron in Aries. So I really do think that by the time we get to the end of the day, there's like some sort of understanding and processing around like what we're going through, what we're feeling, what we need to do in order to feel better and to like be better. And then we're able to like have these like healing conversations. We're able to connect in empathetic ways. We're able to communicate empathy to other people, to each other in ways that can feel really healing and really good for us. And so this day, especially once we can, I think today is going to feel more like a flow, all things considered. And I think just like allowing us to let the feelings happen and to process them and to let those kind of like flow through us, to understand them, this day feels like productive in a way. So let's move on to Saturday, September 13th. Yeah, click that over. Do, do, do. Here we go. So Saturday, September 13th, moon's still in Gemini. It's going to be in Gemini all day today. And the moon is still out of bounds. So I think this is like unbridled curiosity, like needing to know all of the things, um, which is great because we do get the sun is going to make its meeting with Mercury in Virgo. It's going to be Cazimi. So uh, this can feel very special and very important. There could be a Cazimi moment, an aha moment around like what we think, or like maybe all of a sudden we like express ourselves or we say something that is like brilliant, right? Um, like these systems are pure. These these conversations are, correct. That kind of thing. But it's like how we are and how we're thinking are like completely blended. There is no separating these things. This is like a super brain moment. That's kind of how I look at it. And it can also still have to do with the past, right? There could be some sort of Kazemi realization moment that has to do with the past, that has to do with what I said previously, having to do with Virgo things, which can be young women, maidens, right? It can have to do with service. It can have to do with workers' rights. Like, yeah, I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see what happens for your Kazemi moment. Maybe it's just like a light bulb goes on, Jupiter being in aspect, it's still an aspect. It's separating by about a degree and some change at this point, but like Jupiter, I think it's like big ideas, really generous conversations. And hopefully this feels really pleasant for people. The moon is kind of out of danger from squaring it yet. So let's try to get the good times to roll. Moon doesn't have any Ptolemaic aspects on Saturday. Really, all we're working with is this Cazimi. But we do get the moon making all of these quintiles to Venus and Leo, to Saturn and Pisces, retrograde, pardon, to retrograde Neptune and Aries. Um, and then the sesqui square to retrograde Pluto in the evening. But like during the day, after like 6 a.m., I don't know. I think that there's like a flow. I think that there's an ease that also, I mean, it's Saturday, so hopefully you can just like play and go with the flow on this day. But there's no like major, major movement in a sort of way. The sesame square from the moon to retrograde Pluto in Aquarius, though, I don't think feels very great, and that's at 6:31 p.m. I think it feels like some sort of emotional crisis. And maybe it's because of something that was realized and that we know, okay, I got to get rid of this. I got to let this go. I got to like purge this. Um, yeah, it could feel kind of crisisy around maybe something that we know or we're thinking or we're processing. And I say that because the moon is in Gemini, which is ruled by that Mercury and that's conjunct the sun. And then Aquarius, Pluto and Aquarius. I want to use the modern ruler here, I but Aquarius does have a lot to do with like thought and rebelliousness, ruled by Saturn and Pisces, feeling a little mopey. If it's Uranus, feeling very excitable. I think no matter which way you go, the sesqui square just doesn't feel great. And like emotionally, we're feeling kind of like we are now kind of being rung through the coals or put through it in a little bit of a way. It's a minor, they consider it a minor aspect. So your mileage may vary for that day. Okay, so Sunday, September 14th. Whoop, let's go. Oh, my dogs are finally snoring. Thank God. Okay. Sunday, September 14th is the sun's day. The sun just had its cazimi with Mercury, but now Mercury is still cruising for it's cruising for a bruising. Um, but the sun in Virgo, this is the season of like getting your shit together, clean your house, do the tasks on your list, make all the lists, right? So we are going to, on the sun's day, we do get that last quarter square between the moon and the sun. In Virgo, it's going to happen at 21 degrees, 52 minutes. Don't love that for me because it hits some of my planets, but the last quarter square can feel like a crisis. Um, this is like a crisis in conscious, like I have so much more to do and I need to take some sort of action. The mutable square is just kind of like whatever action we take, I think we just really need to be flexible. The mutability says be flexible. But like again, this doesn't feel super comfy, right? Because it is a square. And it doesn't have to do with any of the benefics, which love when it's a square, it's like, yeah, indulge, but that's not what this is, right? The moon and the sun are in signs of thinking and processing. And so I think that this square, this mutable square, really has to do with, maybe taking stock of all the things that we haven't finished and that we need to, and needing to make those changes, those shifts. 5:16 p.m. or a.m., pardon. Moon square Mercury. Mm, this can feel like some sort of verbal, like, tiff, some sort of not feeling great, feeling out of sorts with what you're thinking, what you're feeling are not jiving. They haven't come to any sort of like real agreement yet. Moon and Gemini really wants all of the little details that doesn't care about really the veracity of anything. And Mercury in Virgo really wants things to be precise and exact. And so when these things aren't working out together, we can feel uncomfortable, right? And we could have a little bit of an emotional, or sorry, a verbal, like, ooh. We do get the moon trine Mars and also moon sextile Venus and Leo. You know, there's a lot of Ptolemaic aspects today, so I think we're able to really feel like we're like doing stuff, getting things done today. This is kind of the day to like do all of your errands because of the Ptolemaic aspects of like the moon going through it. Moon trine Mars and Leo, Libra, it's playful trine, you know, Mercury and Libra are communication signs, and this is like maybe taking some sort of action to like be in communication and like to, make good, to make peace with, to actively make keep peace with. But I don't necessarily, I don't know. There's an energy to it that feels really quite nice. We're going to get a sextile from the moon to retrograde Chiron in Aries. And some sensitivity comes in. maybe we're able to communicate with a little bit more sensitivity in a way. We're going to get the moon square retrograde Saturn in Pisces. This is a crisis of awareness where we feel some sort of limitation in like how we're going forward. It's going to be at the very last degree. So it's like when the moon is in Gemini, at the very last degree, it's like trying to know everything. It's trying to wrap that up. And like Saturn is like, you don't get to know it all, right? You don't get to figure it all out. This is like some sort of emotional reality check, some sort of, feeling a sort of crisis, maybe too much responsibility on one's shoulders, too much to do. This can also feel a little bit like depression, kind of being sat on, cooled down by Saturn. At 5:30 p.m., we get the moon entering Cancer, so this is a vibe shift. So we get that square from the moon to Saturn, which is like wah wah, right? And then the moon goes into sensitive, very sensitive, not necessarily crybaby, but sensitive feeling, intuitive Cancer. So now we're feeling all the feels. Moon is out of bounds. So like, ooh, cry it out. Moon square retrograde Neptune in Aries. Maybe we're feeling a bit like taken advantage of or like overwhelmed by the sorts of feelings we're having or disillusioned with what we've learned or tried to do previously. This could just be feeling like emotionally confused. And then at 8:11 p.m., we get the moon quincunx retrograde Pluto, which never really feels great. Just anxious and don't really know what to do about it, right? Yeah, so that is that day. So we step into Monday, September 15th. Let me put up that chart. Wachow. Monday is the moon's day. The moon is at home in Cancer. Down here, you see. Moon in Cancer is sensitive. It is intuitive. It is feeling. We generally like the moon in Cancer, but it's big feelings. The moon is out of bounds today. The moon also doesn't really have really any Ptolemaic aspects while it is doing all of this. It will be doing that the next day, but on this day, he's just kind of in the feeling space, let's say. So for Monday, we do get some interesting, weird, I don't know. We get Venus and Leo by quintile retrograde Neptune and Aries. This is a really creative aspect where I think that there's like some sort of feeling passionate around like how we're like connecting in like romance and like our vision of what we think uh, relationships and romance should be. Mars and Libra by quintile retrograde Uranus and Gemini. This is interesting. I think it gives Mars some exciting energy to be in play with. This new ways of operating, certainly. Um, and also could have to do with communication. I don't know how much I love Mars and Libra being an aspect to Uranus because there could just be something shocking, surprising. The biquintile is like a flowing minor aspect. So could be it's so easy for Mars and Uranus to be kind of working together in the background. So there could be some sort of surprising um, surprising piece of data that has to do with certainly Martian things. Martian things can have to do with aggression. They can have to do with soldiers. They can have to do with, how we use our bodies, how we use up our energy. Yeah, just kind of different. The moon is going to quintile retrograde Chiron in Aries, the sun in Virgo, and Mercury during the morning through the afternoon. Flowing energies, not much to really worry about. The biggest aspect of the day is at 8:03 p.m. Venus in Leo sextile Mars in Libra. And this is going to happen at 25 degrees, 51 minutes. And what I dig about it is that Venus and Mars are in this like flowing, flirty aspect where they're like kind of getting along, Um, flirty, creative. Mars in Libra is an aspect to its ruler, Venus in Leo. There's a little bit of reception here, so they're like really getting along. This is as if in relationships there just kind of is this like sexy flow. It's a sexy little sextile. We we like it. We like her. And also just feels like creative and beautifying and yeah, it feels like maybe you go out and dancing or oh well, it's Monday. That's unfortunate, but yeah. You'd be feeling kind of like flirty and passionate about something or a person in relationship. It's the two planets that are often used in relationship synastry are working together in a good place. So, I like Monday. There's not like a lot going on except for this sextile, but I'm hoping that it just like helps lighten up the mood a little bit because holy crap, we've all been really kind of going through it? So, last day that I will be talking about for this forecast, we have Tuesday, September 16th. Let me put it up on. I really don't know if I got all of the charts on up. I don't, yeah, I'm not going to timestamp this. I don't have time for it. Tuesday, September 16th, we still have the moon out of bounds. Moon is wrapping up its time in Cancer on this day. It won't enter Leo until late night, 10:19 p.m. We do get the cute moon conjunct Jupiter at 5:18 a.m. So this is a 12 p.m. chart, but like that is a very, very nice, expansive feeling, maybe feelings of safety and harmony and like generosity, certainly, Jupiter in Cancer is in conjunction with its moon ruler. Because he's ruled by the moon. Sorry, my brain is starting to shut off a little bit. I hear my dog snoring in the background. I'm like, oh, that would be so nice. Um, but this is a really, I mean, it's Moon Jupiter can be indulgent, certainly, um, generous, emotionally generous to a fault. So we also have Mercury quincunx, Chiron. I think that there's some sort of maybe a adjustment that we need to make in how we're talking about what has hurt us we're thinking about. The quincunx brings some sort of forced adjustment that doesn't feel great. It feels like anxiety, right? And maybe how we have talked about what hurts us. We're like, oh, that was improper. I gotta shift. Oh, but that's so cringe. It just doesn't feel super wonderful. We do get then the Chiron gets a lot of action today. So I think our wounds are just open. Open, not sutured, can poke at them a little bit. Venus and Leo trine retrograde Chiron in Aries at 3:10 a.m. This energy is going to hold for the day. The ability to soothe and heal. And there could be, it's fiery because we have Leo and Aries in aspect, the archetypes. And so there's like some sort of passionate uh, way of going and doing these things. I, I don't know, there's something healing, pleasant about that aspect, kind of. But it's like, not super great because at 8:46 a.m., then we get Mars opposite retrograde, Chiron in Aries, which I think is like you feel disrespected and you want to do something about it. So all that to say, I think the wounds are open. I think that there's opportunity for healing. I think there's opportunity for awareness and like maybe the ways that we have tried to go about taking care of ourselves or healing ourselves. It's kind of good news, bad news bears, the way I kind of look at it. Um, when we get the moon in Cancer square retrograde Chiron in Aries, sensitive 3:30 p.m. Like Chiron is just kind of really going through it. And then we get 3:53 p.m. moon square Mars in Libra. This could be some sort of verbal, like it could be an argument, it could be uh a little like emotional expulsion of whatever of feeling, spiciness. Certainly Moon sextile Mercury at 5:51 p.m. We have the ability to speak about the things that we need and what we're feeling and what we're going through. And then we get this kind of like wrapping up kind of energy. Moon in Cancer, trine retrograde Saturn in Pisces is like able to kind of come back to like an emotional equilibrium. It's some sort of calm. Um, which is kind of an interesting way of looking at it. It's like after all the things that you go through this day that could feel pretty like overwhelming, kind of hyphy, ouchy, sensitive, hurting, um, explosive, emotionally explosive in some sort of way, like wounding. Then you're having the conversation, and then you're able to kind of do the self-soothing and the healing and like kind of find yourself back to some sort of emotional baseline by the end of the day. And then at 10:19, the moon is going to enter Leo. So it's almost like you do all of this feeling stuff, this processing stuff, this healing stuff, this sensitivity stuff, this anger stuff, and then like the moon is like, I just want to have fun now. I just want to be creative or, even better, like I did all of this and now I can like really be like open-hearted and generous with you and myself, right? Moon in Leo is generous, is loyal, open-hearted, warm, 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 but also to a fault needs attention and needs recognition in order to feel okay. And so on the shadow side of this, maybe what we've gone through, and now we're feeling like we need some sort of outside source kind of pouring into us at this time. And that's the last aspect of the day. So I really do think that with the moon being out of bounds really all week, that we're really going to be kind of going through it emotionally, as if we weren't all the time. Um, really try to take advantage of that sextile from Venus to Mars on Monday. I think Monday could feel pretty cute. That's September 15th. Sunday seems to be like a good day to kind of get all of your errands done, just kind of knock them out. Uh, you know, Run to the store, get some boba, run an errand, get some lunch, just kind of like doing all the things. I think the day to really kind of, some of the days to kind of look out for are Wednesday, September 10th, I think is just, I think things start to kind of hopefully calm down a bit by Thursday, the 11th. And then we go into a bit of maybe more of a healing space or an understanding space by Friday. Yeah. So those are my notes. I hope everybody's doing well. Open for readings. And I can't believe I got through this without one of my dogs freaking out, though this was the fourth time or the third or fourth time of trying to do this. So take care and talk to you another time. Okay.